Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gopimanam. How many here have been to Jagannath Puri? Whoa, very good. Me too. Having just come back from Jagannath Puri, it's kind of a natural inspiration to share something about Jagannath Puri. And I'll spend a little bit of time about Jagannath Puri and then go into something else. There's an area of Jagannath Puri besides the Gundicha temple that is known by the local people and by Bhaktisiddhanta and others as being Vrindavan. The relationship between Jagannath Puri And Vrindavan is not exactly the same, but not the same either. It's Purushottam Kshetra. Skanda Purana describes it. It's so non-different than the Supreme Lord. It bears his name, Purushottam Kshetra. But the mood of Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath is Krishna in the opulence of Dwarka, just like the mood of the opulent Krishna. The Aishwarya feature of Krishna in fullness is there in Dwarka. 16,108 palaces, etc., etc. All opulence. Inconceivable opulence. But while in Dwarka, Krishna is missing the loving associates in Vrindavan. It's one of the descriptions that found in Skanda Purana about Purushottam Kshetra Mahatmya. The residents of Dwarka were desiring to understand why is it that Krishna has such affection, such affinity for the residents of Vrindavan. You know the story. Many of you know the story. So they wanted to hear the glories of Vrindavan, and a little light went on. Rohini! She lived in Vrindavan. Now she's with us here in Dwarka. We'd like to hear from Rohini. She said, I won't be able to narrate the glories of Vrindavan because as soon as I begin, Krishna will come and then the narration will be interrupted. What we want to hear. So Subhadra, she volunteered, I'll stand at the door. And if I'm standing at the door of Krishna and Bala, my brothers won't come. So she stood at the door, and Rohini started narrating the pastimes and the loving dealings of the residents of Vrindavan. Anush and Krishna came running to hear. And as he was hearing, his eyes got very big, and his arms were drawn. And Narada was in the group, and I see. Krishna came into his normal form. You should assume a deity form like this. This was explained to King Indradyumna. No, this is not an unfinished deity. This is Krishna. Jagannath in Puri is Krishna in that mood, in Dwarka, eager for the association and the katha about Vrindavan and all of the glories of Krishna, and particularly the glories of Krishna and his loving associates in Vrindavan. That's Jagannath, and that's Jagannath Puri. And a part of Jagannath Puri that's covered Vrindavan, Gupta Vrindavan, is in the area where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur made his bhajan kutir and spent just before his departure, the final years of his life, near the Tota Gopinath temple. Tota in the local language means garden. So because I want to speak about the Bhagavatam, so I have to shorten all this, but when Gadadhar Pandit Gadadhar Pandit was the same age as Nimai Pandit when they were young boys. They grew up together. But the pastime of Nimai Pandit was Mr. Super Scholar. and not devotee. And Gadadhar was Mr. Super Devotee. And he had love for Krishna since childhood. Later, Mahaprabhu said, I wasted so much time, but you were always devoted to Krishna. You were always devoted to Krishna. So, when Gadadhar came to Puri, along with the residents from Navadvip, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completed his South India tour, after the 4 months of the rainy season, they stayed. Everyone went back except Gadadhar. Gadadhar stayed. Lord Chaitanya gave him, he assigned places of residence exactly suited for everybody's personality. Very customized, very personal, highly affectionate treatment. So the place for Gadadhar was this garden area because it reminded one of Vrindavan. In fact, when we just went to Tota Gopinath, 2 people who had never been to Puri told me, as soon as we went there, I felt I was in Vrindavan. And the deity is the deity of Gopinath. Connection. Gopinath in Puri. The Lord of the Gopis. How the Gopinath deity was discovered, there's one description. Lord Chaitanya, like the mode of Krishna in Dwarka, he was feeling intense separation from the resident of Vrindavan. He was searching for Krishna, but he couldn't find Krishna. So he became crestfallen. He was sitting on the ground with his finger scratching the ground. He got so absorbed in scratching the ground, he was scratching the ground and scratching the ground and dug a big hole, and there was the Gopinath deity in the earth, in the sand. Big deity. And he entrusted the worship of that deity, of Gopinath, to Gadadhar Pandit at Tota Gopinath. Very ancient deity, very beautiful deity. They don't allow pictures, but we got some pictures, so we'll tell you how we got them. And during the month of Kartik, the deity who was otherwise sitting, because they were the same age. When Lord Chaitanya left this world, at the end of the pastimes, he entered into the body of Gopinath. There's a place on his knee, and he entered into his knee, and that's how he disappeared. Gadadhar Pandit remained for another 8 months. But during those 8 months, he's like he aged 100 years. He became his attachment was the same as the attachment of Radha for Krishna, because he's Radha and Krishna had departed. Right before his eyes entered into the body of Gopinath in his presence. So he became very weak and feeble, although he was only 48 years old. And so the deity sat down because he couldn't put the garland on the deity, the crowns. The deity's sitting. But during the month of Kartik, they show a pair of legs. And the rest of the 11 months of the year, you don't see his legs because he's sitting. Pretty amazing. And every day, Lord Chaitanya would come. Darshan of Jagannath, dance in ecstasy, receive paraphernalia, Jagannath's toothbrush, and flowers and garlands and prasadam directly from the pujaris. Then he would go see Haridas and give Haridas Jagannath prasadam at his association, And then, every day, Gadadhar Pandit, to see Gopinath, the Lord of the Gopis. And he would chant and dance in ecstasy, and Gadadhar Pandit was with him. And then, they'd sit down and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Charitamrita doesn't detail this, but if you read it carefully, you'll come to understand that the followers of Chaitanya, followers of Gadadhar Pandit, were really expert in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, as was Gadadhar Pandit. Skipping details because of time. Imagine, picture in your mind, Radharani speaking Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day for several hours in Tota Gopinath. What was that like? And amongst the favorite passages, Lord Chaitanya liked the story of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlada Maharaj. Now, anybody that knows a little bit about Bhagavad Purana knows those stories. And often, unfortunately, devotees, when they hear a story, think, oh, I've already heard that one, tell me the next one. I want to hear something new. But that wasn't Lord Chaitanya. He would hear the whole thing. And after he finished the whole thing, he'd say it again, say it again, say it again. So Gadadhar would say it again, 100 times. That's the words of Krishnadas, Kaviraj. So I'm going to narrate something from 7th canto that you may have heard, but hear it again and hear it again. Because the Bhagavatam is meant like that. It's like sandalwood. Some of you probably, many of you probably have made sandalwood paste. You know how to do that. Pretty simple. A little piece of wood about as big as your fist, flat rock, a little bit of water, not too much. And just go like this. Chant your favorite mantras, or just Hare Krishna mantra, or Bhagavad Gita slokas, and remember Krishna, and go like this. And what happens is the wood becomes paste. And not only it becomes a paste it's very fragrant. You can smell it, and it has a very cooling effect. Reciting Srimad Bhagavatam is like that, like sandalwood. It's very fragrant. It's very cooling, very soothing. It's worship of Krishna through sound, because the Bhagavatam is Krishna. Padma Purana says the Bhagavatam is the literary form of Krishna. Krishna departed and the Bhagavatam appeared. The literary form of Krishna is how we can access Krishna in this age. And you just do this. Just hear the sound. Vibrate the sound, hear the sound. What to speak of Gadadhar Pandit and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In chapter 6, I'm going to do a little overview. In chapter 5 of chapter 1 of Canto 7, the whole 7th canto is a narration by Narada Muni to Maharaj Yudhisthira. And it covers a lot of topics. But the springboard where it starts is Shishupal just got liberation at the Rajasuya Yagya, and the installation was completed, the ceremony was completed, and there's a beautiful painting. Narada's seated, Yudhisthira with folded palms is asking, Krishna's off in the distance on this raised seat, and all the other associates at the Rajasuya, asking, how is it possible for this nasty, offensive, despicable Shishupal, got liberation. Many people, lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes, there's austerities and striving, and they're virtuous and pious and wonderful people, and they don't get liberation. That fellow got liberation. We all saw it. How? And one of the important messages of the Srimad Bhagavatam is chanting of the holy name. He chanted the holy name. Namabhas, he chanted in scorn and derision. It's discussed in detail also in the 6th canto, the whole Jamila story. Another Namabhas, and at the beginning of the 7th canto is another Namabhas. You know, devotees. This is the kind of chanting we do. Most of us, probably. Namabhas. It's so powerful. He got liberation. He didn't get Krishna Loka. He got liberation. Just see how the power of, so what to speak of, you chant with faith. And then so many other explanations of the consequences of abhas and how to become free from abhas. It's very interesting. And then he begins the Puranic narration. I'm going to give some examples. And it starts with skipping a little bit. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Brothers, elder one, Hiranyakashipu, younger one, Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha gets killed by Lord Varaha, having sent the earth out of its orbit to the bottom of the Garbhodak Ocean. Varaha comes, big battle, he's killed. Then the funeral, very interesting. Hiranyakashipu, to his mother, Diti, and all the other relatives and everybody assembled at the funeral, he speaks transcendental knowledge. He's a very learned fellow. But he's got a big problem. He's a demon. And the standard is, he's averse to Vishnu. So after this transcendental knowledge is really interesting, really well spoken, we should be careful saying such things at somebody's funeral, but you know, he knew his audience, so he did what he did. And then I want to kill Vishnu, because my Vishnu killed my brother. I'm going to take revenge. I'm the most powerful dude in the universe. I'm going to get him. Take a vow. Became very powerful, conquered the universe, conquered the king of heaven, pushed out the king of heaven and all the demigods and took over. Very powerful. Then doesn't really belong in the heavenly region at all because he's so demoniac. No piety. Lots of knowledge, no piety. And so the demigods went to Lord Vishnu. Help! I'll take care of the problem. And he took care of the problem. And he took care of the problem in a variety of interesting ways. The demigods, Hiranyakashipu wants to become immortal. You know these stories. So he went to the forest to do this very difficult austerity for a long period of time. The demigods, heads up, Hiranyakashipu is off in the forest, let's go get the kingdom back. And when they went in full force, the demons, soldiers, they fled. They didn't even stand and fight. They got back the kingdom of heaven. Not for too long. And when they found the wife of Hiranyakashipu pregnant, they arrested her. And this is important. Narada somehow has the uncanny ability to know when to show up at the right time in the right place and say the right thing. There's a reason he's connected to Super Soul. He's a very empowered person. So, what are you doing? Well, Hiranyakashipu Jr. is in her womb, so we're not going to harm her. We just, when the little boy is born, we're going to kill him. great devotee. Entrust her to me. So they did. Just hearing from Narada, that's all it took. Took her to the ashram. She made a request. Please give me this benediction that my son will not be born until my husband comes back from the forest with his austerities. So the benediction was given. And he spoke transcendental knowledge. She forgot everything later. This comes chapter 8. She forgot everything. Because that association, who she was attached to, she forgot. But Prahlada didn't forget. He had received from Narada the means of achieving spiritual perfection. He achieved spiritual perfection by hearing and then remembering what he heard and living by what he was remembering. Hiranyakashipu got his compromised benediction from Lord Nrsingadev, from Lord Brahma, came back, took over the kingdom again, demigods are displaced again, and chapter 6, Prahlada is growing up, he starts school, put in the charge of the sons of the chief priest of the demons, Shukracharya, Shanda and Amarka by name are the teachers. And then comes this teaching section. This following weekend I'm going to be speaking Central New Jersey on the teachings section but I find it's really good to get this overview picture of the flow of events. This fits together with that because there's a natural progression. There's certain themes that are repeated. And I want to get to chapter 10. So I'm going to do a little fast forward. There's several sections. So Prahlada is now in school, means he's 5 years old. And his father, affectionate father to his son, sits his son on his lap and asks him, what's the best thing you've ever? He asked it twice. And both times he hears what he doesn't want to hear. He hears the message of bhakti to Vishnu. And when he hears from Prahlada, he becomes angry and reaches a wrong conclusion. He speculates and says, this boy has been polluted. Somebody got into the school and gave bad association. Because one develops knowledge and one develops qualities according to association. Very important spiritual principle. Sangat sanjayate kama. We develop qualities like those with whom we associate. So someone got into that school and spoiled the boy, Chanda Namarka. Make sure no one gets in and spoils this boy further. So Chanda Namarka take him back to school and sit him down and say, where'd you learn? And his answer is it's several verses, but it basically he says it's just spontaneous. It comes from my heart. And I can't help myself, it's just spontaneous. They don't like to hear that one. And then comes this message, the enemy has given you this, friends and enemies. There's several sections. Those in the bodily conception of life, several sections saying the same thing, different terms, but same message. Those in the bodily conception of life think in terms of friend and enemy. He's really direct. And I've heard about these things, and now I'm seeing it in you. Some time passed, Radhikashipu invites his son, sit on his lap, what's the best thing you learned? My dear father, persons like you who are so much attached to material enjoyment in the family, in the household life, should give it all up and just go to the forest and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. That's the best thing I learned. Wow, he exploded. Chanda Namarka, what have you done? You're bad teachers. And then they said, wait a minute, we're Brahmanas. You don't speak like that to Brahmanas. We didn't do those things. So he turns to Prahlad. Prahlad, where'd you learn these things? It's a really cool answer. Even if I explained it to you, you couldn't understand. Or if you tried to understand on your own, you couldn't understand. Or a combination of the two, you couldn't understand. Because persons like you, you're too much attached to the temporary. You're just an illusion. You're like the blind person leading blind people and you fall in the ditch and says all these heavy things. You should give it up and worship Vishnu and become a devotee. He's not my son, he's the enemy. Because one who's devoted to the enemy is the enemy. Friends and enemies, right? Kill him. They try to kill him. Too many ways. And it doesn't work. Nothing works. There's the different ways. And so, interestingly, he becomes sad, morose. Chanda Namarka can see on his face, in his mood, he's the terrorist of the universe is sad. So they go and console him. Look, he's just a little boy, he's only 5 years old, he'll get over it. We'll teach him, good stuff, divide and conquer, and all those things, really important things. And just, we'll do our best. He tried everything. Then comes this wonderful section where it's chapter 7, I believe. Chanda Namarka, they're back now. He's back in the classroom after it didn't work to try to kill him. Back in the classroom. One day, Chanda Namarka leave the classroom, and when Chanda Namarka when kids leave the classroom, what do kids do? Party time! Play! So Prahlad, says, no. Bhakti. Komara, famous verse. Acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha. This human form of life is very rare, although it's temporary, it's very rare to achieve, and if it's used properly, one can achieve perfection. And don't think about doing it later. We're young, we want to play, we'll do it later. Goes through this whole long explanation of life is simply wasting time. And 100 years passes and you've wasted your whole life. Just a little personal message. As you heard, Ramchandra expressed, my introduction to Krishna consciousness was at the university that I attended, without details. My first encounter with Srila Prabhupada was leading kirtan with Allen Ginsberg in the Millard Fillmore room at our university. I didn't know who he was, I didn't know nothing about nothing. But just the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra from pure devotee completely transformed my life. All kinds of things started to happen. Just by hearing. Of course, there had to be a little receptivity. But before that, I was in, la la land like everybody else. Being successful. Being successful. I didn't even know who I was. Being successful. I didn't know what the goal. I didn't know what was important. I didn't know what my convictions were. I didn't know nothing. I was too busy being successful. So something that I do regularly, purposefully, is I try to give back what I've received. And one of those endeavors is visiting universities. If I describe to you what my schedule's like to visit universities, you'll go, "You nuts." But one of the messages I share, not every place, but when it seems right, that there's one message I want to pass on to you. Whatever else you don't remember, that's okay. Remember this one. Don't live your life in such a way you don't ask these important questions, because please don't be at the end of the life. The conveyor belt of life is there and you still don't know. Don't make that mistake. Don't wait till later. Ask those questions now. Get answers that are real answers. If you don't do that, it's really sad. Being successful. Very heartfelt expression. I don't know how it touches people, but very important message. Oh. Prahlada Maharaj is passing this message on to his classmates. And at the end, after describing the abject futility of trying to find happiness through fruitive activity and sense gratification, he presents the alternative, bhakti. And he describes what happens when you follow a path and life of bhakti. And the students go, "Wow, this is great. We never heard this from Shandanammarka. Where'd you hear it?" Now he's already been asked by Hiranyakashipu and Shandanammarka. He didn't disclose. But to his classmates, he discloses. And that begins the next chapter. I heard from Narada. Mom, she forgot, but I didn't. And then he goes on describing further what he heard. More and more and more on transcendental knowledge. And it ends up, they have kirtan, dancing in the classroom. And Shandanammarka come back. What? They didn't say anything, they just went to Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, Prahlada is polluting all the classmates. Hiranyakashipu comes immediately. I tried to kill you. I'm the most powerful person in the universe. If I just raise my eyebrow, the demigods tremble in fear. And you're fearless. Prahlad, where do you get your power? Same place you get yours, Dad. Where's that? Vishnu. Oh! Where is this Vishnu? He's everywhere. Ah! Look at this pillar. You know, because it's every Sringadeva's appearance, we have the same drama. Sringadeva comes out of the pillar. And he kills Hiranyakashipu, he kills all the soldiers in this big bloody mess, and the demigods, when it's all over, they beautiful prayers, eloquent prayers, and you study them carefully, you come to find out a lot about the personalities of the persons who are offering the prayers, because there's different relationships. We're all individual, and they have different positions in the universal math affairs, and they have a specific personal regard for the source of everything. It's their relationship with him. Still angry. So they offer Prahlad, he appeared to protect you, you go. And chapter 9 is his prayers. That's what we spent the whole 35 hours just discussing that one chapter. And at the end of the chapter, Lord Nrsingadev, besides being calm, he's very pleased. Very pleased. And he offers some benediction. And then I'm going to read 10 verses. This is the punchline of this evening's presentation, along with this kind of overview picture. Because in the introduction section of chapter 6, Prabhupada writes that Prahlada Maharaj, by hearing the pastimes of Prahlada Maharaj and hearing the teachings and the prayers of Prahlada Maharaj, one can learn the ways of pure devotional life. His teaching is a teaching of pure devotion. That's why you want to hear it again and again, because we need some scrubbing power, just like when we chant again and again, not just say one name, that's it. Liberated. We chant more than one name, because the heart is very contaminated. And we're attached to our certain favorite contaminations of heart, unfortunately. Now, some of them we let them go, but some of them we're really attached to. We have to chant again and again. Bhakti Sandarbha. Daily, over a prolonged period of time, with faith. And where do you get that faith element? You can do mechanically daily and for a period of time, but where do you get the faith? It comes from mercy. The mercy comes through sound vibration. This Bhagavatam is such mercy. That's why we like to read it, we like to discuss it, we like to do this like sandalwood, particularly in the association of like-minded persons, devotees. So we have temples to engage together in Krishna Katha. Once Prabhupada said, many of our Hare Krishna temples, there were previously churches that were empty. And now there's Hare Krishna temples and they're full of life. What's the difference? Place of worship and place of worship. It's where there's life. Life attracts life. And that life is Krishna Katha together, and Kirtan, and our devotional activity. Not on the platform of friends and enemies, on the platform of we're worshippers of Krishna. Because this other program is the material consciousness doesn't hold its position in the spiritual arena. Doesn't belong there. Something that I learned in the first 3 weeks of living in a Hare Krishna temple. It's relevant. Bhakti is powerful. Bhakti cleanses. And you better watch out, because if you have an attachment to some impurity, Bhakti cleanses, and the impurity is going to get washed out. If it gets washed out and you're attached to the impurity, then you go too. So, it's not a intimidation or fear message. It's a glorification of the Bhakti message, and Bhakti requires that we let go of things that don't belong in the house of Bhakti, in the realm of Bhakti, in the realm of devotion. Because Bhakti is pure, and this receiving of mercy and nurturing of faith comes through proper hearing and not making offenses as we proceed on the path of Bhakti. So, Prahlad has pacified Lord Nrsingadev. Lord Nrsingadev is very pleased. He's offered benedictions. And here comes Prahlad's response. 10 verses. Just read the verses, the translations. Although Prahlada Maharaj, this is Narada speaking, was only a boy, when he heard the benedictions offered by Lord Nrsingadev, he considered them impediments on the path of devotional service. Thus he smiled very mildly and spoke as follows. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality, Godhead, because I was born in an atheistic family, I am naturally attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, kindly do not tempt me with these illusions. I am very much afraid of material conditions, and I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. He's already liberated from materialistic life, but he's very humble, feeling he's not. He's attached to materialistic life. He's already said it before. Don't offer me my Father's kingdom. He went to as far up as you can go, and just in a moment, it was all taken by you. No thanks. I don't want. But in a humble mood, now he's saying, attached to materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. Text 3. Oh, my worshipable Lord, because the seed of lusty desires, the 5-year-old boy, which is the root cause of material existence, is within the core of everyone's heart. You have sent me to this material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee, which is the same as what Prabhupada says in the chapter summary in chapter 6. He was sent to teach the way of pure devotional service. Sent means he's a Vaikuntha Vasi. He's a resident of Vaikuntha. Come to this world to teach, to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. Well, of course, exhibit the symptoms includes his teaching, but how he responds to adversity and how he responds to all kinds of things. And how he's filled with compassion, not filled with retaliation and resentment, filled with compassion. It's very powerful. Now, this is the Bhagavatam version. I'm going to just go over here for a moment. Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is another one of our exalted Vaishnava scriptures, is written by Sanatana Goswami, and in the section where he's describing Ekadasi, today's Ekadasi, right? Yes. So in describing the glories of Ekadasi, he makes reference to a scriptural passage where, from the Puranas, where Prahlad is asking Lord Nrsingadev, how did I get this exalted position having been born in a demoniac family? The response, Lord Nrsingadev says, in your previous life you were a Brahmana. But you were a neglectful Brahmana by birth, and skipping to keep, because the clock is ticking. You got involved with a bad woman. And you were cohabiting with this bad woman and left behind all your Brahminical upbringing, and kind of like a Jamila. Kind of like that. And there was some disagreement between you and this lady, and so you got really upset and you fasted for the whole day and all night long. It was a Ekadasi. And she also fasted, she was also upset. So you got Unknowingly, you got the benefit of observing Ekadasi. Just see how powerful Ekadasi is, and therefore that's entitled you to take this birth and get all this mercy. You just observed Ekadasi, even unknowingly. And the lady, she became an Apsara, then she went back to Godhead. So you're going to go back to Godhead too. Just keeping it short. So that's a different description. Previous life he was a Brahmana. Here in the Bhagavatam, chapter 10, he was sent from the spiritual world. It doesn't say from the spiritual world. He was sent to teach to exhibit the symptoms of one who is a pure devotee, and he does it. His example is the standard of pure devotional service. We're not there. We do not imitate, but he's the standard. Very powerful, very inspirational. Just the sound vibration is elevating. That's why we're doing this. Next, 4. Otherwise, O my Lord, O Supreme Instructor of the entire world, you are so kind to your devotee that you could not induce him to do something unbeneficial for him. On the other hand, one who desires some material benefit in exchange for devotional service cannot be your pure devotee. Indeed, he is no better than a merchant. The Sanskrit word is vanik. You know that word. Who wants profit in exchange for service. So I'm not like that, and you're not like that. So please don't ask me to take a benediction like it's some business deal. A servant who desires material profits from his master is certainly not a qualified servant or a pure devotee. Similarly, a master who bestows benedictions upon his servant because of a desire to maintain a prestigious position as master is also not a pure master. No, Lord Shangadeva is not offering benedictions because he wants followers. He's offering benedictions because of his love and reciprocation of love. He wants, oh my Lord, this is one of my favorite verses in this whole section. I am your unmotivated servant and you are my eternal master. There is no need for our being anything other than master and servant. You are naturally my master and I am naturally your servant. We have no other relationship. Now, Prahlada achieved perfection. We know this from Rupa Goswami's teachings. There are 9 processes of bhakti, and Prahlada, perfection. Not like on the path. Perfection. Just by remembering him. That remembrance came as a result of his association with Narada and his receiving those teachings of Narada within his heart and living them. Always remembering. Smartavya satatam vishnur. Vismartavyam najatachit. He exhibits it. And the qualities. So, looking at the clock, I have to finish. Oh, my Lord, best of the giver of benedictions, if you would all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. And he's not a Buddhist. Because Buddhism teaches become desireless. He wants spiritual desire. He wants shelter, he wants service, he wants remembrance, he wants bhakti, but no material mix in with it. He wants pure bhakti. Oh my Lord, because of lusty desires from the very beginning of one's birth, the functions of one's senses, mind, life, body, religion, patience, intelligence, shyness, opulence, strength, memory, and truthfulness are vanquished. 2 more verses, and we're done. Oh my Lord, when a human being is able to give up all material desires in his mind, he becomes eligible to possess wealth and opulence like yours. Doesn't become the enjoyer of those things, but he's capable of receiving. It's one of the four kinds of Vaishnava liberation. Opulence is like the Lord. But the Lord doesn't make the mistake of giving those opulences to people who have materialistic consciousness. One who's free from that material consciousness is eligible to receive unlimited. Then the final verse. O my Lord, full of six opulences, O Supreme Person, O Super Soul, O Supreme Soul, Killer of all miseries, O Supreme Person, in the form of a wonderful lion and man, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So the whole section, the whole Bhagavatam section is teaching the way we're here. It's just like, Prahlada is from a demoniac family, characterizing himself as having demoniac desires or material, but coming to the stage of pure devotion. The other, the story of Dhruva. Big time mixed bhakti. He wants kingdom. In the end, he gets a kingdom, but he loses interest in the kingdom because he only wants service to Lord Vishnu. They're very valuable sections of the Bhagavatam for us because it's relevant. And it teaches the way of, through sound, heard properly, to go from where we are to this realm of unalloyed devotion. And keep going, it is the unalloyed devotion of the residents of Vrindavan. That's the kind of pure devotion that Lord Chaitanya came to give. He came to give pure devotion in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, simply through the chanting of the holy name, supported by this wonderful sound vibration or teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. We've got it made. It's not because of our past piety. That's a mistake. Whether we're pious or not pious. It's not, you can't stack up piety and get bhakti. It's a misunderstanding. And some people think that, but it's a misunderstanding. I'm sorry to be so blunt. Prabhupada said it to the disciples. He said, some of you are thinking, I know, some of you are thinking, because of my past pious activities, I'm now engaged in devotional service. Not so. I found you in some dark place. I grabbed you by the hair and I'm dragging you and you're flailing back to Krishna. Prabhupada said that about himself. I remember sitting in the Henry Street Temple and Prabhupada saying, my spiritual master found me in some dark place. Now his dark place was a high dark place, but it was... Anyway. And he made me fortunate. And then he told me, go and take this good fortune and make the lives of others fortunate, and so I've come. Jai, Prabhupada. And now I'm giving you the instruction. Receive this good fortune and go forward to make others fortunate. Jai, Prabhupada. So it's, the Jai Prabhupada part is easy, then the rest is some work. But the way, how to get there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in his late 30s before he even had a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, because there's no printing presses. For us, it's like, we got somebody standing up here and saying, who wants to sponsor a Bhagavatam set? Or just go, bbt.com, click, Srimad Bhagavatam, click, here's my credit card information, click, and they'll send it to your home. It's made so easy. We're so lazy. misguided and unfortunate, always disturbed. We're so fortunate. Receive this good fortune with open hearts through sound. Come regularly to the temple, worship the deity, take prasadam, and hear the message of, and kirtan, and hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.